What's going on, Everly Sports? Back with another video, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the New York Giants firing head coach Brian Daboll. Of course, this news came out just about a half hour ago, as the New York Giants have decided that Brian Daboll is no longer their guy, and that they need a replacement at head coach. And this move is an interesting one. In terms of timing, usually these moves happen kind of earlier in the morning, and the Giants set up their normal Monday meetings, after a game, and it just seemed like it was going to be a regular week. And then about a half hour to an hour ago, they dropped the news that Brian Daboll was going to be fired as head coach of the New York Giants. And this is a move that I think we saw coming, and it's tough because based off the first year that Brian Daboll had here in New York, it looked like there was a lot of promise here in New York, and that there was going to be that he was going to be the guy here. But Daboll went 20-40-1 as a head coach with one playoff win during his 3.5 years as head coach of the Giants, and he just didn't win enough games. And I really like Brian Daboll. I really wanted him to be the guy. I was hoping that this wouldn't be the outcome, but of course, you don't win games and you blow games that you have no business blowing. This is ultimately what's going to happen. When they fired Joe Judge, I was all the way up until a week or two before, I was not fully sold on firing him. And then when the back-to-back quarterback sneaks happened, and just the debacle in Chicago and just the disaster that was going on, I kind of came to agree that that should be the outcome, and it ultimately happened. But here with Brian Daboll, it's just tough because I thought him drafting Dart means he's going to get a fair assessment. He's going to get time. I certainly thought he'd get more than just 7 games with Dart, but ultimately you don't win games, and that's what happens. They won a big game this season against the Eagles in prime time. They beat the Chargers at home. So I thought those were 2 big wins for Daboll in terms of keeping his job. But ultimately, that loss against Dallas, that loss against Denver, and the loss against Chicago yesterday, that was it. There was no coming back from that. And I think there's a lot more guys to blame than just Brian Daboll. I think the players need to do a better job. There is talent on this football team, and it's going to be an attractive job for head coaches coming in. But Shane Bowen should have been gone way before Brian Daboll, and it wouldn't surprise me if John Mara did not let that happen. Brian Daboll definitely wanted Shane Bowen gone. It doesn't take an idiot to realize that. Now, of course, in Brian Daboll's first season here with the Giants, he won Coach of the Year, and we thought we found our guy. I certainly thought we found our guy, and then Daniel Jones got the contract and didn't do what he was paid to do, and a lot of people put the blame on him, including myself, and I think that was very fair. I thought he was terrible here, turned the ball over a lot. I think he's going to, at some point with the Indianapolis Colts, come back down to earth. There were flashes yesterday. I mean, if he didn't have Jonathan Taylor, he would have lost that game. But besides the fact of Daniel Jones, I thought Brian Daboll wasn't necessarily his fault. I thought his first year was the coach who he really is. And this season, it's just been tough to defend him. I still think he could be a really good coach. I think he's a great coordinator. I think that's pretty obvious. What he did with Buffalo it just was great. What he was able to do in the development for Josh Allen. And I think he had a lot to do with Jackson Dart being as good as he has been so far in his NFL career. But it doesn't erase the bad and the blown leads, and just there's some unknowns. What happened with Wink Martindale exactly? That was kind of a weird thing. Wink Martindale was a very, very, very good defensive coordinator. He still is. It's weird what happened there. But ultimately, I wish Brian Daboll nothing but the best moving forward, and I don't have any ill will towards him. I don't hope he's unsuccessful. I actually hope he's really successful, because he was an easy guy to root for. He got really fiery on the sidelines, and I think he still has the opportunity to be a good coach somewhere else. Definitely a good coordinator. He's going to have no problem. He should have no problem finding an offensive coordinator job because he is a great offensive mind. He's a great offensive coach. He's a quarterback guru. I still think that could be the case. He just wasn't a good head coach here the last couple of seasons with the New York Giants, and that sucks because I really wanted him to be the guy. He was really easy to root for, and I was hoping that he would be the guy, and I still hope he's the guy somewhere. I wish Brian Daboll nothing but the best and hope he finds somewhere to coach and succeed. But as for the Giants, I think the timing for this was actually, I think this is good for Brian Daboll. It would kind of suck. Keeping him here would suck if you're Brian Daboll. You're getting fired at this point, and having to stick around and through the media and planes flying across MetLife Stadium, it would have been tough for Daboll. It kind of would have been him just kind of sitting and hanging around in misery. So I think the Giants are kind of doing him a favor getting him out of here right now, and I think it's good for Brian Daboll to clear his mind. Now, as for what this means for Joe Schoen and the rest of the coaching staff, I don't know. At this time, they're not making any other changes. Brian Daboll is the only change, which I think is a little bit unfair. I think Shane Bowen deserved to be fired a long time before Brian Daboll, and Joe Schoen is, I guess, on the same. It's a regime, right? So I think if you're going to fire one, you should fire both. At this point, I don't see the. Of course, it doesn't matter if they do it now or the end of the season, but I don't see the benefit to keeping Joe Schoen right now with one more chance, because that's what it would ultimately be. John Mara giving Joe Schoen one more chance with a different head coach. And then, if that head coach shows promise, but you still feel like firing Joe Schoen, you fire him, keep the head coach, you're forcing the new GM on the head coach. So it just doesn't make any sense. If you're going to fire one, you should fire both. So at this point, I'm on the side of firing Joe Schoen, and Shane Bowen, I'm not worried about that. He's going to be fired at the end of the season if he even gets to that point. As for the interim head coach, it's going to be Mike Kafka. It's pretty obvious it was going to be him. He's been getting around the league. He's been getting some interviews. I don't care what he does. I don't want him as a head coach in the future. He should get the 7 games to audition for other jobs and show what he can do for the rest of the league, but and hopefully get us a comp pick. But at this point, I don't want Mike Kafka to be the head coach of the Giants. I think they need to, just get this entire regime out at this point. You're going to fire one, you should just fire them all and start fresh, start clean. Chris Mayer and Tim McDonald, they should go too, but they probably won't. That's a John Mara issue, and that's for a whole nother video. He's an absolute mess, disaster, and he's the number one problem with the New York Giants. But at this point, Brian Daboll's fired, and we'll ultimately see what ends up happening. I'll do more videos on other candidates that could be the head coach. But as for Mike Kafka, hopefully for him he does a good job, but hopefully the Giants look elsewhere, and I think they will look outside the building. And I ultimately do think that they're going to fire Joe Schoen, and I think at this point that would be the right decision, because if you're going to fire one, you fire both. You fire the entire regime. But Joe Schoen has put some talent on this roster, but like I said, no sense in keeping him as well. So Giants fire Brian Daboll, and this probably means that they're going to clean house and fire the entire regime. It sucks. Wish Brian Daboll nothing but the best. You guys let me know all that good stuff down in the comment section. You think they should have fired Daboll? What do you think they should do with the rest of the coaching staff in the front office with this entire regime? Let me know all the good stuff down in the comment section. As always, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. See you guys on the next video, and as always, let's go Giants.